Irish Footy Vlogs, and welcome to your First Division preview show. As you can see, Philip Walters is with me today. It's not Cian Menton. How are you, Philip? You well?
Yeah, good, Keith. Thanks.
Good stuff. No, thanks very much for coming on. No, it's really appreciated. Fair play to you.
Yeah, no, it's great. Looking forward to covering the First Division now because, at the end of the day, it's been a great start looking at the division and seeing where teams are. So, look, delighted to be on as well, and hopefully all goes well for Cian.
Fantastic, fair play to you. He'll be back soon, guys. Don't worry. Bray Wanderers take on Cork City, and this is a big game because Bray have 4 points. Philip, they're in 7th in the league, haven't won 5 games. Cork have won 1 and 5. They've been dreadful, if I'm honest, so far. Cork City. Bray will consider themselves a little bit unlucky. They've had Gary Shaw and Darragh Lynch, injured their 2 strikers. So that makes it difficult for any team when they're missing 2 strikers. Let's be honest about it. But it's a tough one. Whoever wins this game, Philip, will still, I suppose, give themselves a chance. I know it's early days, but think they can maybe still finish top 2 possibly. But whoever loses the game, I think this area they're in big trouble, especially the way Athlone and Shelburne, even UCD have started.
Yeah, 100%, Keith. Just looking at it, I've not seen 2 teams desperate for points in a long. 2 big clubs in the country. Let's be honest, a lot are in the First Division. They have got big following, and to be honest, I think Bray have been very, very unfortunate, but I think Cork have got everything they've deserved. I don't think they've recruited well. From looking back on, I haven't watched too much of them, being completely honest, but looking back at games where they've played and they've been they've just been horrendously bad.
All you have to do is listen to their own fans, Philip, really, to be honest.
Yeah. Follow I think it's a Cork City fans page on Instagram, and every week it's abysmal displays, and it's unfortunate because, let's be honest, Cork are a big club, and it's not nice to see that happen. I know other Shamrock Rovers fans might disagree with me here that they're delighted to see the demise of such a big club, but it's unfortunate, and I don't think they'll finish anywhere near a mid-table, be honest, which is the way they've played, unless there's an absolute incredible turnaround. I don't think it's possible. Touching on Bray, though, they haven't got the points on the board yet, but they've picked up those draws, and it's unfortunate with the injuries that they've had. So I think if they can get Shaw back, at least Shaw back, they could start moving up the table. Again, I think going back to the First Division with Dundalk, I think if they just get that result, if Bray just get that 3 points on board, they'll kickstart their season, So I would say, on the basis of what we've seen so far from both sides, I'd say Bray will get the result. Whether they can keep a clean sheet or not is there to be seen, but I just don't see Cork posing too much of a threat, being completely honest. I'd say maybe 1 or 2-0 to Bray.
Of course, Bray have your man as such, Brandon Kavanagh, there in loan as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And last season he was phenomenal, and I think there's a big year ahead of him now as well. And I think if he goes and puts in a good season like he did last year, there's no reason why he can't come back to Rovers and really, really challenge the lads that we have there now at the moment, because he's an exceptional young lad. Seems to have his head in the right spot, really enjoying his football. And we've seen last season the quality, the goals he scored were phenomenal, So
he's very good from set pieces as well, isn't he, though?
Yeah, he scored 1 game last year, nearly identical free.
His delivery is good as well.
Yeah, an absolute wand of a left foot. But look, if he turns up and puts on a show, there's no reason why they can't go and put 2, 3, 4 past Cork, because, as we said, they've been very, very poor. As I said, it's very sad to see. But look, you can only look at the structure of the club and how it's being run, because the recruitment has been abysmal. And
they have to ultimately they have to look at themselves. I mean, it's happened many times with them, unfortunately. And
yeah, it's and the thing is,
many times, there's no lessons ever learned, seemingly.
Yeah, exactly. That's just about, you took the words out of my mouth. They haven't learned from past mistakes. And the fact that the fans can tell you before the season starts that this is going to be quite tough and it's going to be abysmal, like it has been, that's saying a lot. Do you know what I mean? And that just, as I said, unfortunate, but sure, you can't blame anyone but themselves.
Absolutely. You went for Bray win, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd say Bray 3-0.
Ooh, I'll go for Bray as well. Narrow though. I'll say 1-0. Either way, it wouldn't be great for Cork. Athlone take on Cabinteely as well. Athlone have started out, what a flyer. 13 points rather from 5 games, 4 wins, 1 draw. Scored 11 goals in the league as well. Only UCD have scored more. Cabinteely started off well, actually, won the first 2 matches, but have hit a bump the last few games. Actually, they've hit a bump ever since the cancellation. That game against Galway as well, which at this minute in time, they've lost as such. But there's an appeal going on. That could change the end of the season, you know yourself. Do you see Cabinteely halting Athlone's momentum here, or do you see Athlone marching on with another 3 points?
Look, I think Athlone have done fantastic. Let's get straight to it now. Keeping it the nail on the head, like they've been brilliant. The recruitment, so far, the recruitment seems to be spot on. They've got a really tight knit unit. I just don't know if the depth in the squad is there to keep this run of form going, in my opinion.
I suppose only time will tell there, won't it, really?
Will tell. Look, Cabinteely, they're an experienced side at this level. They've kind of been unlucky. You know, I personally think that the 3 points that was deducted from, given away, should have been overturned. I don't think that should happen. I think the health and safety of everyone is the utmost priority, as we've seen over the past year or so, year and 2 months, whatever it is now, with the guidelines and all that sort of nonsense. Everyone stuck to it, and Cabinteely done the exact same thing. So why should they be punished, in my opinion? It'll be interesting to see. I hope it does get rescheduled. The fixture gets rescheduled and they can play the game. But yeah, no, I think maybe this is a bit of a bump here for Athlone, in my opinion. I think Cabinteely just might have that experience with the division, because at the end of the day, they've done quite well over the past couple of years. Do you know what I mean? They were unlucky last season. Yeah, I could easily see Athlone getting points. I personally think it's probably going to be a draw. I'm going to go for 1-1 here.
I think they'll keep up the momentum. I think it will be tight though. I think it'll be 2-1. Shelbourne obviously take on Treaty United on Friday as well. And Shelbourne, a bit like Shamrock Rovers in the Premier Division, they haven't really got going yet. But at the same time, they've 11 points after 5 games. Took second in the table there. They'll be happy enough with that. Big squad, as we know. Massive players on the bench. Michael O'Connor up front, you know, Maddie and Macaulay, they can choose any of those players. Shane Farrell's come in, done very well the last 2 games as well. So, you know what I mean? They've got players who can come in and out when they're missing, like Denzel Fernandez and that. Treaty have been excellent, in my opinion, for a new club. 9 points, unbeaten. 3 red cards, by the way, in the first 5 games, and still find themselves unbeaten. So they've got to be happy with that. And obviously, Tommy Barrett, they don't have any standout players as such. They have some good players. Mark Ludden was a good sign for Galway in that, but they're clearly coached very well and seemingly very hard to beat. They don't score many. They don't concede many either. I don't think this will be an easy game for Shelbourne at all. Do you, Philip?
I don't think. No, I think it'll be a difficult game for Shells. Look, they've done okay with the start, and they find themselves in quite a good position considering the performances that they've put in.
Yeah.
Treaty have been exceptional, let's be honest, for a club that was basically put together. I know there was a bit of a plan for it, but basically weeks, let's be honest. Do you know what I mean? A squad put together within a couple of weeks. They've done exceptionally well. I don't know whether they can keep this up, because it's nearly too good to be true, to be honest with you. If you offered them where they are now in the league, they'd a bit hand off, because as I said, it's come together in a matter of weeks, and the fact they're sitting in the playoff spots at the minute is ridiculous. So
I'm not saying they're going to finish in the playoffs, but potentially they could if the likes of Cork, Bray, and say Galway, for example, continue to struggle as well. So potentially they could, but I think that's the best they can do, is sneak a playoff. But be interested to see, obviously, later on the season if they can actually, keep going. Such.
Of course. And look, they're not there by luck. They're there because they've done. Do you know what I mean? They've been difficult to beat. Although the discipline hasn't been fantastic, but they've took their chances when it's mattered. Do you know what I mean? And that's what put you in that position in the league. Like, so again, Shells, I'd expect to win this game, to be honest. But as we it's going to be a difficult one for them. So I personally think maybe 1-0 Shelbourne. I couldn't see them going and putting 3 or 4 past Treaty, just off the fact of how well they've started. So 1-0 Shells, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be tight, and Shelbourne just about nick at 1-0. Wexford and UCD, and poor Wexford have had an awful start, really. No points after 5 games. They haven't exactly been hammered in the games. Like, they lost 1-0 to Shelbourne as an example. Most of them have been tight. You know, you're talking about 2 extremely young teams. We know about UCD and what they always have young players, some cracking young players, Collie Whelan, Keeney, Kerrigan, players like that. Sam Todd brought in from Finn Harps is a huge addition, in my opinion, and seems to have helped them in the back line. Wexford have a lot of 18, 19-year-old type players, almost like they've academy players from other clubs. They brought in a few from Pats, for example, on loan, Kyle Robinson, and they actually brought in a few from Pats under 19s as well. It's almost like they're academy players put together almost into first team. That's probably where they're struggling a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, big time. But like, I think we can all say, Keith, UCD have done a great job over the past.
They always do, don't they?
Yeah, it's something that's renowned to the club. Like, you know, they always get the best and maximum out of their budget, their potential. You know what I mean? There's always the maximum taken from.
No matter who they lose as well, there's always somebody, isn't there? It's great. Like, yeah.
Step in, you know what I mean? And it's great credit to how a club should be run. Someone that's not like a club that's not able to hold on to their top talents, but their recruitment to bring in the next person that does the exact same thing practically over and over and over again. It's a credit to them, and I think personally, they're going to win this game comfortably. Wexford have been as you said, they've been unfortunate, but football tables don't do feelings or don't do emotions. It's points based, as we know. So I just think that the fact that they haven't got off the mark is a bit worrying. Look, they'll pick up points along the season. There's no doubt about that. Like, but I think they'll struggle in this particular game just because of how good UCD are, and I think maybe it might be another 3 or 4-0. In the results wise for UCD, just off the fact of how well they've started. Like, they've been brilliant.
Yeah, they're a joy to watch, actually, because if they're not scoring, they're usually conceding, you know what I mean? So, but like, I think they're dark horses actually to go up automatically. Dark horses now, because if they get in a run, they have some fabulous young players there. And there's players that I know of as well that I wouldn't have seen play, if I'm honest, because they always bring new players in and that. And some of them are probably good as well, like, you know. So, yeah, I think they'll win this game as well. Unfortunately for Wexford, I do think it's another week, another defeat, to be honest with you, unfortunately. Cove and Galway in Cove. Now, that's a big game as well, because Galway, again, haven't won yet, unless you count the game against Cabinteely. They could lose those points. Do you know what I mean? They could easily lose those points. So I don't know. The table has them here in 3 points after 4 games, but then I've seen other tables counting that win. So you have to say at this minute in time, they got to 3 points. So they're on 6 after 5 games, but they have to actually win a match here and very soon. They're full time, remember, as well. That doesn't give you a right, but it adds pressure, I think. Cove is not an easy place to go to either, and they'll think they can sneak into the playoffs as well. 5 points after 5 games. It's okay, but they could do better as well, potentially. Yeah,
and like, to be honest, I'm a bit surprised. I thought Galway would have been straight out the door, like out the traps, like a team possessed to go up, because they've been unlucky, you know, with how things have went last season. They went on a good run towards the back end of the season, and
I think that's the reason why as well, because they went on a good run under Caulfield, and it's like, how are they starting this slow under Caulfield now? But even this season, if you look at the points they have, they've 6 at the moment. Now, obviously, 3 points, they were lucky as such because they didn't play the game, but 2 of their other points, they actually got late goals in. So it's not as if they've less than they should have. They've actually even more than they should have as such. So that's a worry as well, isn't it?
Big time, yeah. Look, I suppose when you look at the squad they have, you think that they're going to get going sooner rather than later. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, at the end of the day, like, you can't go and put in such a good string of performances throughout the back end of last season and then just not start at all. like it's similar to Bray. Now they haven't had as much injuries as Bray, but I think they'll win this game and start motoring on now. In my opinion, I think there's the time for dilly dallying now is kind of coming to an end. You need to get going now, or else you find yourself in trouble come towards the latter end of the season. They've done it last year. They managed to go and put in a magnificent run and get themselves back in there. But I just think with the teams that have improved this year and the quality in the division, I think if you do that this season, you're not going to get back with like they did last year. So I'd say a narrow win for Galway. I think they'll get off the mark, but again, Cove have been decent since the start, so there'd be no reason why they couldn't take a point. I'm going to say 1-0 to Galway, but again, there's no shock in a draw there.
I still think Galway will probably make playoffs. The issue is they don't want to be too far off your likes of Athlone and Shelbourne, because they'll be very hard to catch those type of teams if they're 9-10 points behind them, basically, that kind of way. I suppose one problem for them was early in the season, in my opinion, a player I said was one to watch, Lombosho, a young striker. He's only 20. I think it was 2 days before the start of the season or something like that. He picked up an injury and he's out for the whole season. And I thought he was one to watch. His electric pace and that kind of thing as well. So that was a bit of a blow to them. But at the same time, I do think they'll pick up. The question is, are they going to pick up enough to actually challenge for promotion or first place? Essentially, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Especially with that game in question with the 3 points. Like, you know what I mean? I want to be sitting in fourth or fifth with a point or two ahead of sixth and seventh, like, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that could come back and haunt you. Obviously, if the points were taken away, they have to play the game, so they do have the opportunity. But you still, you wouldn't want to be in that position come the last couple of games of the season, where there's a bit of uncertainty about it, because at the end of the day, it's always a tricky time of the year when it comes towards those games, when it comes down to punch and crunch, like, you know what I mean? So I suppose that I personally think they'll make the playoffs. Like I said, I think they'll get into the playoffs. I don't think they'll challenge for the title. I think that's gone now at this stage.
It's bad, really, isn't it?
Crazy to think that we're saying that after 5 games, like, do you know what I mean? But look, I think they'll get the result there just about.
Brilliant stuff, Philip. Look, thanks very much. Really appreciate your contribution. Guys, please like the video, subscribe if you're new, and hit your bell notification button so I don't miss a video. Also, leave your thoughts in the comments. Thanks again. Cheers, Philip.